Hello, and welcome to this Modiphius painting stream with myself, Jono, Giles on my left, and Gavin on my right.
Hello.
So Gavin, tell us about what you'll be painting today.
So, if anybody watched the painting stream two ago?
It was the first one.
The first one, that's probably
Ground
easier to
zero.
say. Yes, the first painting stream that we did. I'm carrying on with the models from then, which is my Draugr Overlord, right here, and I've now cleaned up the female dragonborn. You remember I abandoned halfway through because she was covered in all bits of crud that I hadn't cleaned off, and so I'm going to try and finish her up as well.
Fantastic. Giles?
Yeah, so the last 2 weeks I've been playing the Red Rocket set, so I am switching out to Elder Scrolls, and we're going to see me start painting Ralof, who'll be part of the Stormcloak faction, who'll be in one of the introductory boxes.
He's in the starter set.
Yeah, he'll be one of the heroes, one we've had a lot of fun play testing with in development. So yeah, looking forward to actually painting this one, so it's been a long time coming.
Excellent. And I will be painting a super mutant aviator, because I'm the least experienced painter on here and I'm not trusted with the nice stuff. So, yep, I'll just be painting him. We're going to go for a sort of a black and a yellow colour scheme. Been told that's quite tricky, but thought I'd give it a crack and see what happens.
Yeah. As a side note, it should be noted that in the office, John has a reputation for horrible super mutant army lists. So it's very fitting that he would choose a super mutant to paint. So yeah, look forward to see what you're doing with it.
What comes out with that? Yeah.
All right. Should we get started?
Let's get cracking.
Right. So John, is this the first mini you've ever painted, or are you just not a lot of painting?
Just not a lot of painting experience. As you can tell, I'm already struggling taking the thing off the brush. So I'm very clearly an expert.
Twist it.
So you twist it. Is that how you do it?
And
there you go.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
That's all right.
Yeah, I've painted. I've tidied up a few models. I've never really painted from scratch.
Yeah.
Other opposed to that one other time in the office when John, who was on the painting stream a few weeks ago, he basically gave us a masterclass on the basics. So I know you need to shake the pot first.
Yeah, give these ones a really good shake because they can be quite liquidy.
I've actually got, in my ones at home, I've actually got little stainless steel ball bearings in there. And there's a lot of people use glass beads as well because they've got a bit of weight behind them. And stainless steel ones, if they get nicked, they can rust, which can make the paint go funny colours and what have you. So, and then you know when it's mixing because you can hear the little click, 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 click as you shake it. That's quite nice. Agitators.
We're not wobbling the table for you, are we?
No, not at all.
We're not trying hard enough then.
Also, thanks to Jason for lending us some paintbrushes. I wasn't
great.
sure I was going to be on stream today, so I didn't bring any
black
brushes
paints
in.
again.
Yeah, so thank you for lending them to us. Otherwise, it would be a very challenging.
And whilst we're doing thank you to Geek and Son for our lovely table as well.
This is a nice segue.
Yeah.
Nice segue. Thank you.
Done this before.
Yeah. A little bit of water on there. Mix it all up.
Yeah, so these ones are generally, you don't need to put, I find don't need to put a lot of water in these ones, they're very liquidy anyway. So, you know, it helps thin it out, but some of them don't need too much thinning.
I will take your advice.
Yeah, paint on the end of the brush, you don't need it all the way up to the ferrule.
Is that the technical name for the end bit?
The metal bit is the ferrule.
The ferrule.
The ferrule ghoul.
Right.
So, are you guys, I suppose, especially Gavin, are you painting anything? Is anything on your painting docket at the moment, or have you had I mean, there's always something on the docket. It's how when you get around to actually painting it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, my painting station. I have a painting station at home, but at the moment it's buried because we've been having various bits and pieces of work going on at home. Not the least of which was just had a smart meter fitted.
Okay.
So where the under my stairs, where I keep all my gaming stuff, had to take everything out so the little man could get to the smart meter. So at the moment, I'm not doing any painting, although I have 2 or 3 big boxes full of stuff to be painted.
Yeah. As soon as you get I have my area at home, but it's a bit of a mess at the moment. I think that usually puts me off painting, especially when I get in. I can't bother clearing the space up to start, but
yeah.
Anyway.
it's just one of those things where I guess if you have a space already set up for it, it's one of those things where you can just go home and be like, oh, I'm just gonna sink into here.
Yeah.
But if you have to set it up and then take it down afterwards, it's kind of.
I think it's our table, unfortunately, is just covered in predominantly my gaming stuff, but it's just sprues everywhere and dice and all sorts and books, and it's just me being lazy and not actually clearing the space.
It's interesting though, if you look at, if you do some searches on YouTube and places like that, there's some really interesting setups that people have got for mobile painting station.
Yeah.
Where you can stash it behind the sofa or under your bed or whatever. That keeps all of the brushes and paints and any minis you're working on in one place.
I'm trying to be more organised, but I'm definitely chaotic in that regard. It's
yeah, it might be that some people don't have a lot of room to have their own setup.
Yeah, that's the dream, to have the dedicated hobby room with the fantasy maps adorning the wall and the glass cases full of moderately well painted miniatures.
Have your display minis and your tabletop minis separated.
Yeah, most of mine are just painted for whatever reason. there are various degrees, but I'm not really a competition painter. My level has improved a little bit, but I think I just like displaying it for myself and when I run games or play games of any sort.
Yeah, it's nice. As someone who regularly GMs games, it's nice to be able to bring figures to the table and have players go, that's really cool, and you're like, yeah, I put a little bit of time and effort into painting that.
And they manhandle them.
Oh yeah, their greasy fingers.
Don't pick it up like that. Yeah, hopefully I'll have a bit of time to do some painting this weekend. Just finish off some of my projects so I can start new ones.
What are you working on at the moment?
I'm just finishing off some goblins, and I've got some packs of little things like some John Carter minis from the Kickstarter, which have been on my desk for ages, and I really would like to clean them up because I don't see a lot of them get painted, so I'd like to do some stuff with that.
Oh, sorry.
What colour did a streamer struggle with to paint the most, and any tips for those colours? Well, we had a discussion about the office earlier. Yellow, obviously, being one of the.
Yellow is quite tricky. I'll put this near the little camera over here.
Stick them on the
stick it on the bottle cap. So as you can see, it's not really coming out very well. I've been told that yellow is usually a very difficult colour to paint with. As is black, which is the colour scheme I'm going with today, because
black's not too bad. Black covers everything. The problem with black will be making it interesting.
That's really what it is, isn't it? Like we had a discussion before we came over about colours, and black being one of them. It's not that it's difficult playing pack.
Spin him round.
Yeah, I'll give him a little.
It's just like Gavin said, it's just trying to make black interesting, and then trying to make sure it's highlighted. And there's various ways of doing it, like dark blues, dark greys, but.
Yeah,
it depends on what you're painting. So if you're doing an army or a squad of black armored people, sometimes it can be difficult to make them look interesting if you're trying to speed paint things in time for a game or something.
Any of those bright colours, if you're looking at sort of bright neon sort of colours as well for whatever reasons, they're tough to paint because it's difficult to get good even coverage in them.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's your water. I'm dipping my brush in your water.
Into my water.
It's only a matter of time. I'm taking a big risk by having my drink here as well.
I've already done goofed by putting it in my.
But yellow is okay, providing if you've got a light primer. If you're going to do a black primer, you're going to have a hard time with yellow, and that's when you'll want to do gradients of browns and ochres, even oranges and things like that, just to build it up from the
ochre. Ochre is a vegetable.
Well, I'm sure you can use it to paint with. I'm sure you can. It just requires a little bit of imagination on it.
And mashing.
Yeah.
That brush is a bit big for what I want to do.
Yeah. I also a weird one I always struggle with is actually gold in terms of not struggle, but rather than just taking it straight out the pot, you want to try and do something interesting with it. So I'm trying to work on variations on brass and gold at home, and it's getting there, but.
So trying to paint gold in non-metallics.
I won't. That's way. We were talking about this earlier, Gavin, and it's a skill I admire, but it's not as said. I'm not wedded to wanting to do it. I'd love to learn how to do it one day, but I just don't. I'm afraid of ruining a miniature. I know you can always paint over again, but
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where I'd rather just leave that to the professionals.
We got some of the pre-production miniatures for Elder Scrolls have been painted, and they're the ones that you would have seen on the website recently. And the guys did non-metallic metals on those, and they've done a fantastic job of it.
Absolutely,
and it just convinces me that it's not something that I want to attempt when I look at them, because I just couldn't do it the same justice as they've done.
That's better. I always paint better without my glasses, but then I have to see what's going on in the chat. If people have any
We'll
questions.
take it in turns, Giles.
Yeah, blind leading the blind. Yeah, there's some things you can do with black though. So one thing I've been doing, like I've been practicing a lot of inks and washes on some stuff I've been painting at home, and doing kind of a blue wash followed by a heavy black wash usually gets quite a nice effect, but you need to make sure you've got a good prime on there and build up layers. So that's another way you can do it if you want to try something a little bit more technical than just slapping black paint on.
Slap it on.
Yeah.
Should you be concerned about your strokes and which direction they're going in? So you don't, like with the smaller brushes, you can kind of just dab it, and but as a less experienced painter, is there like a technique that you should try and use, or I guess there's a multitude of different techniques?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't dab the paint.
Wouldn't dab the paint, okay.
No, because you'll damage your brush.
Okay.
Especially if it's a small brush.
Okay.
I mean, you can try like pulling away or pulling to and from. Those are usually good ones. So it's strange because as I'm not a pro painter, it becomes kind of almost instinctual after a while of how what feels right to you. But just small, small little strokes I find to build things up. Depends how much is on your brush as well.
Yeah.
You'll also find that if you've thinned the paint correctly, your brush will flow. Whereas if the paint is a bit thick, that's when you're more likely to dab, because the paint isn't flowing. Okay. It's more like a putty or something then that you're pushing around rather than painting with it.
And is that the same when you know you've got enough layers on it?
I mean, it depends. So obviously I have quite like a strong dark layer. I will probably put as many as I feel that's that solid colour. So on here you can see some little bits of black kind of just peeking through the paint. So I'll know it's ready when I feel it's a solid colour for my base coat. Okay. I mean, it depends. Some people, it just depends on the standard you want to do it. Some people may be happy with just a bit of colour on it, but if trying to build up solid colours is always a good thing, and that just sometimes take a little bit of time. Depends on what you want to do and.
Absolutely. I mean, I always bear in mind that most of my minis are used in games, and I'm not entering competitions. So if it looks okay from 3 feet away, it's probably all right.
Exactly. Yeah, that's usually a good.
If you want to go further than that, then you need to be having this conversation with somebody like Jono or Reese.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's no reason why you can't implement some of your normal in your average painting. But like I said, it's tabletop ready.
Yeah.
Which I usually try to aim for, but then I do more painting these days than gaming, so I will then spend more time trying out new things and different colour schemes. So it doesn't have to always be table ready standard, but hopefully a little bit more. It's just...
Can we get a showcase on the table cam for the miniatures?
Yeah. Sure. So I don't know, nothing too special, just building up the main sort of blue robes, if you can see that. I'll go over the straps again later on, but I just want to kind of get the robes or the cloth done before I move on to anything like his jerkin. So my main goal today is kind of get blues and the browns in, and hopefully, if I've got time, some chainmail. But it gets like so my main colours is going to be blue and brown. That's really it, the two main colours, and then a third will be any silvers or lighter browns and greys. I'll start with so this is Gavin's Lady Dragonborn. She's a really great model. There's quite a lot of brown on this one, isn't there? So it's trying to distinguish between the flesh tones.
Can you spin around?
Yeah,
you can see from the back.
So yeah, Gavin was showing me one of the professional painted ones of this, and the non-metal metal
this
on
is
it.
Not.
Oh, don't say yourself sure. This is going to win a golden demon in no time. No, but this is sort of one that can look really good with non-metal metal. So if you're that way inclined and far more talented than clearly us three, this is a model that'll look really good. In non-metal metals. Say that 5 times.
And that's the Drago Overlord, right?
Yeah, that's the Drago Overlord.
He's pretty much as I left him last time we were
here,
so I've done nothing to him yet.
So, but I await his transformation. Can I see what you're doing, John?
Yeah, sure. It's I'm just layers of yellow.
Layers of yellow.
It's kind of, he looks like that mustard guy from Hot Mustard.
Oh, you mean Charlie? Yeah. So.
He looks like that guy from Sin City after his transformation.
Super mutants are a really good model to start practicing on. They've got a lot of skin, they've got some armor, so you can get a lot of different. You can work a lot of different skills and textures on those particular models. So they're if you've got a Fallout starter set, they're a really good one to start with, especially if you're just starting out painting. And the Fallout guide that is a painting guide, which is a really it's really good step by step. I use that just to kind of look at the army, paint a range progression for blues, which is kind of what I'm roughly following today.
You've got a fan.
Yeah. Thank you, Abby Dabby Doo.
Wargame Ethan, how long do you spend painting tabletop standard mini?
Forever.
I mean, it's going to vary.
It will depend on what I'm painting.
So the Brotherhood, for instance, Brotherhood power armor, as we were saying earlier, relatively straightforward. You can prime them in a metallic color, do some dirt, do some washes, pick out a few bits and pieces,
and they're good to go.
And they're good to go. But something like one of the Minutemen or maybe a Raider that's got different kinds of clothing and that sort of thing will take longer.
Absolutely. So this is interesting. This is the first time I've painted any the old scroll miniatures. So
nearly.
So kind of good to see what kind of process I'm going to be using when I eventually get a box of these miniatures, because Stormcloaks I think were probably my favourite faction when we're developing it, so I'll be getting a lot of them, and I think they're very versatile miniatures. So. Yeah,
I like them, but I mean we talked a little bit about our favourite miniatures last time, and I think for me certainly still the Imperial Fire Mage.
That's such a great sculpt.
She's a really, really great sculpt.
I'm a big fan of the great swords. I think they're very dynamic. They're just dynamic. They're cool. They just look like really great berserkers, big long sword. But the Fire Mage is one of the nicest sculpts in the first wave.
Definitely iconic.
Ralof is quite a nice.
That's why I thought I chose this one, because
I like Ralof.
I have a soft spot for rangery characters as well.
Yeah.
As long as they're not elves.
None of the
sorry, my bad.
Man. No.
Dragon Ball's looking really good so far. Thanks, Johnny Cakes. See, the Dragon Ball's looking really good.
Yeah. She's alright. She'll do.
She'll do. She'll slay a few dragons.
So I'm just checking to see.
Cannot for the life of me remember what my colour scheme was now.
Yeah, I did write down a list of my basic colours. So one thing I'm really guilty of is whenever I do a really good series of models or a good miniature, I always forget to write down what paints I use, or any doing a paint journal, which I've always been told is a really good way of upping things. But I don't know, if I sit down and I batch paint some stuff and I get to a really good standing and I stop for a bit, it's like you have to kind of remember what you did.
I have done that in the past. I do it on index cards.
Yeah.
And I just grid up the index card, and then when I paint it, I will splash a bit of the paint on the index card.
Yeah.
And write down underneath it what it is and what it's for.
Stormcloaks or Imperials, which are the good guys? It purely depends on how much facial hair you have. That usually is a benchmark.
It depends how you're feeling when you wake up in the morning. Sometimes you wake up and you want law and order. Other times you just want to,
to live free and
live free.
Yeah.
Run out into the woods.
Drink mead with juniper berries.
Yeah, exactly. So both sides have.
But the Stormcloaks.
Yes.
Stormcloaks, yeah.
I mean, you can make arguments for Imperial law and order, but
you'd be wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Big true.
No, I mean the game itself doesn't, much like the source material. The game itself doesn't put anybody as the good guys or the bad guys. They're just guys. They're just those guys,
Just guys having a scrap,
I think the Drow are the heroes.
Yeah.
You know, they're there in their tombs, and some guy comes, wanting to steal some trinkets, and it's like...
Just like, nope. Hits him with a big sword.
They're just there, you know,
Yeah.
just trying to relax.
No, I actually really like the Drow sculpts. Who would you usually go with, Ralof or Hadvar? Ralof. There is a reason why, as I explained in the office when I first played it, but that's not for this stream.
I would also go for Ralof just because...
I mean, he's a very dreamy guy. He's a very Viggo Mortensen.
He's a
dreamy guy.
He's a dreamy guy. Yeah.
He's a good lad. He does what he says on the tin. He sneaks about. He does a bit of bow stuff. He does a bit of. You want a bit of a guy with diversity.
He's a guy you can trust.
Yeah. Hadvar just kind of sits there and it's just like, I'm Hadvar. Bring it. And it's like, you know, it's nice to be able to have that kind of like confidence, but.
Yeah. We'll say that in Call to Arms, you will find Hadvar is a really good fighter, absolute tank. So if you like tanky characters, you can take a lot of damage. Really good command features. He will definitely be, you know, a character you'll want to take in your army. It's almost like almost like a battle cleric in the sense of like he's just tough, durable.
Oh yeah, he bounces back all the time. He's very durable.
Yeah, so I'm slowly building up the blue, which is the base colour. See, there's some straps I've gone over, but I'll pick them out later. I think they won't pick up with a sort of dark leather brown.
So yeah, I'm kind of going over my armour slightly, but I figure that's okay because I'm painting the armour afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're going with silver metallics, usually you can always correct it a little bit. Maybe put different like a bit of white on or something. But generally, if it's a heavy metallic colour, that will cover up a lot of the sort of any kind of areas.
I'm starting to build up a reasonable layer of yellow now.
Scarring belongs to the Lords. Well, that's one opinion.
One apparently shared by a number of people at this table.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like it because obviously the voice actor for General Tullius is the same as the guy who was in Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, was the original?
No,
yeah,
I forget his name now.
I know who you mean. I haven't seen that for ages, Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, but he played General Ty on Battlestar Galactica, and he was a great character in that, and he's a brilliant voice actor as well.
Right, I'm gonna let the blue kind of dry for a little bit before I do a little work on that. So, have you got Monster Brown, please?
I have got Monster Brown. I have.
You're not using
Monster
it.
Brown. There we go.
So I'm going to use this to start on the jerkin, and so what I'm going to do with the jerkin is I'm aiming to try a brown colour, a bit like how you might see Preston's jacket, how it goes from to quite a light faded dirty brown. That's my goal for this, just to make it sort of stand out a little bit more depth.
Yeah, it looks like he's been out in the woods a bit.
Yeah, so that's my aim, to make it look like that, but we'll see how it pans out.
Hashtag Ladbar. Yeah, I mean, he's been known to drink a few meads, you know, come back from battle.
When he's suppressing the Nords and you...
Yeah, after a busy day suppressing Nords, you come back and have a nice tankard of mead.
Hadvar is a Nord though, isn't
he? He is actually, yeah.
Suppressing other Nords.
Suppressing his countrymen. I mean, he's not suppressing.
No,
really.
He's showing enlightenment with him.
He's putting down the insurrection.
Yeah. Laying law and order.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm making a pixie of this.
Yeah, I've done all the easy bits first, and now I've done all the bits which are kind of at awkward angles and under the legs. Yeah. I'm kind of like, okay, I've kind of done that bit, but I've also painted a lot of his tunic as well.
That's okay though, because when you're going back over, that's a really good colour.
The great thing about Fallout minis as well is you can make it look really. You can always cover up in a multitude of ways that it's post-apocalyptic.
Yeah.
So as you notice when we did the Red Rocket stream, anytime we felt like there was something we weren't quite getting right with our colour schemes or anything like that, you could always just put some sort of like slightly dark wash on it or a bit of metallic and go, yeah, post-apocalyptic.
Doesn't look so bad on camera. Nice. Yeah, the sickly yellow I feel is a good irradiated colour.
So yeah, and you're doing a super mutant army for our kind of office.
Yeah,
army,
give your brush a clean.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it can. You want to keep the point on it.
Okay.
Don't leave it in the water either.
Don't leave it in the water.
No, don't leave it in the water.
Okay. Oh, because it soaks up all the.
Well, no, because it bends the bristles.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
okay.
If it's in the
good to
water,
try and
if you
keep,
imagine if it's in the water like that, it bends the bristles in one
So
direction.
it's
You
good
want
to try and get good. It's good to keep a little bit of a point on it.
You want to try and keep a nice point on it.
Nice
as well.
points. You got to lick your brush.
Yeah.
Well, I lick my brush. I mean,
These are Jason's brushes. What's the policy on licking another man's brush?
don't lick another man's brush. I mean, not without his permission, obviously. Right, let's have a look at this fella.
I'm pretty sure my girlfriend, she asked me about licking brushes, and when she sat down to some painting, I'm sure at some point, just subconsciously, it just becomes part of you, you know.
You just assimilate with the
you
brush.
You do, yeah, you come one with it, it's like...
Become one with the brush.
Yeah, if I'm not doing that, and then before you know it, you've got a brush problem.
You can also, if you want to keep a point on the brush, you can always take some paint. Have you got some kitchen roll?
Take a bit here.
Oh, how about the kitchen roll? Thanking you.
Well, I use the kitchen roll just to dab off any excess paint.
Oh,
so you can keep a nice point on the brush.
There we go.
So I have to say, these, what are they sort of like? Gavin brought some views in today because they're, I guess you use them to separate burger patties.
Yeah.
And they actually make a really good little palette.
They're just waxed paper.
Yeah.
So these are just waxed paper discs. These particular ones are for use in burger making machines. But you can get bigger ones that go in the bottom of cake tins or just rolls of waxed paper. And they make really nice little disposable palettes.
It's really, really handy.
If you are into the wet palette thing, which I don't do, do you know what a wet palette is?
I've got no idea what a wet palette is.
So a wet palette is a way that you keep your paints working for longer. They have a longer working time. Let me get the paint off there. I don't want to sit with paint on my brush. It keeps your paints a longer working time, and they're usually a little case. It's rectangular, and they have a piece of foam in the bottom that you wet.
Okay.
And then you put a piece of paper on the top of it, and it's usually either waxed paper or greaseproof paper or something like that that is perforated.
Yeah.
And the paper soaks up the water. It doesn't allow the water through. So you put your paint then on top of that, and the paint stays drier longer.
I see.
And it means that if you have finished a painting session, you can close it up, and theoretically, next time you come back and open it up again, your paints will all still be
nice and moist.
Nice and moist and available for you to use. I've never had a lot of success with them, but I know a lot of people use them very
Something I was aiming to try out this summer when it was getting very hot, but I just never got around to it. It's too hot to paint.
Yeah.
Do you have to keep your paints in certain conditions?
Well, don't keep them in direct sunlight. It's always a good one. But make sure the caps are they're sealed. Keep them out of direct sunlight. I mean, some people, they still have paints from 20 years ago. But that's a testament to a good pigment and good blend.
I've got paints that are older than that, maybe 30 years old, from the original Citadel paint, the original Citadel paint set.
Fantastic. Oh, Rev J, you were at Sarksville on Monday. Well, I'm glad you had a good time. We had definitely the first of many Modiphius Mondays down at Darksphere in Shepherd's Bush.
So what's a Modiphius Monday then, John?
Well, a Modiphius Monday is...
As a veteran
Modiphius Monday, Modiphius Monday is when a group of us from the Modiphius office travel down to Darksphere and put on certain games which people can try out. Its majority of it is the RPGs at the moment, so we've got Vampire, we've got Star Trek, we've got the new Fallout Wasteland RPG, which seems to be a massive success. On top of that, we were also demoing the Fallout Wasteland Warfare tabletop skirmish game, which I'm painting this aviator for. You can come down, meet all of us, or meet a good variety of us, and
yeah, I won't be there.
And you just learn how to play the game, talk amongst people who also have a passion for the same game, and see what happens. We also have Dragon Meet coming up a bit later on this year, which will be a good chance for us to showcase a few other bits and pieces.
Show you where I'm up to with old Rayloff. So I'm just starting with like using Monster Brown, so not too dark, but I'll start after it's dried up. I'll put some washes on both a blue wash on the robes and brown wash on the jerkin, give a bit of definition, and I can start brightening them up. So there's a lot of detail on these models. So there will be bits I have to go over again, particularly with like a darker brown for leather straps. So there's a lot of detail on these miniatures that we do, which is really great. Like I'm always amazed when I look at Modiphius miniatures, how much detail there is. There's always something. There sort of miniatures you paint and then you realize, oh, I missed a bit of really fine detail. And,
yeah.
So yeah, it's been fun so far painting on the old scroll ones.
I'm glad you managed to survive Charlie's Wasteland Warfare. He's been known to be a bit of a difficult GM at times, but you must have really outdone yourself, Rev J.
Mad Irishman 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so I've been watching the game with Charlie, Reese, Alan, and Ethan. Can't stop that. You usually can't. Yes, not always. Though I know it's no. Yeah, I'm sure we'll pass that on to them. But yeah, those games have been really fun, and it's been cool to see people enjoy it. It's been really nice to see like the RPG of Fallout being really embraced by the fans for both RPGs and the tabletop game. So yeah, it's really cool. So hopefully we'll be doing some more of that at some point. So people keep on donating and liking, engaging. I'm sure there'll be many more Fallout adventures to come.
Exactly.
Well, I'm not sure we want to encourage Charlie in that.
So Johnny Cakes, I'm really new to painting, but I do have two questions. Do you guys paint a model with one brush, or do you switch between brushes when painting with different colours? Second question, how do you clean brushes after painting just water? I'll let you guys answer these ones because that's beyond me.
So do you guys paint models with much? So most model lines will tell you need a variety of brushes. So you probably don't need as many as you think. You probably need what would be considered a standard size brush. Most ranges will have a starter or standard size brush, which I'm using here.
What size brush is that?
It is. I don't actually know. It is a privateer press one, which I've never used before. Jason lent it to me. It's very good. I think it's the equivalent of what might be called a starter set brush. So size 1, I guess, size 1, 2.
So brushes are measured. The size of brushes is measured in numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so forth. And then they go down below 1 to go 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, to ridiculous numbers.
Yeah.
If you go back to the first painting stream you did, John had a really good conversation about brushes and what size you need. I do a lot of my painting with either a size 0 or a size 1 brush. I don't switch between colours, I just wash my brush. Just clean the water in between, wipe it off, make sure that as I'm wiping it off, no more colours coming out. And then move on to my next colour.
Yeah. And other than that, the only other brushes you may want to consider is a brush for dry brushing, which you can. I'm sure Gavin's got a good example. So these are brushes you don't necessarily need to keep in great condition.
Put them under that.
Yeah.
Put them on there.
So you can see it. So these are brushes which are a technical dry brushing, where you put a little bit on the brush and you wipe it off and leave just a trace amount, and then you kind of you then just gently brush it or work it over.
They are old, knackered brushes, because dry brushing will ruin your good brushes. So they're also very cheap brushes as well. I think these came out of, I don't know, like £1 sets out of a bargain basement store or something like that.
I'm not too precious with the brushes I get. I mean, I'll pick up. I've got numerous starter set brushes because they're usually size 1 brushes, like Gavin said, and they will do most of the job for the sort of miniatures I paint. And they're cheap to replace. And how do you clean your brushes after painting? Usually, I have to make sure they're thoroughly clean in the water. That's really it.
Well,
I mean, sometimes you can add some soaps and some white spirits.
It's used. I wouldn't use white spirits.
Some people do.
Yeah, well, if you're painting with enamels, maybe, but not if you're using acrylics.
No.
But if you're, I mean, brushes are hair. Most brushes are made of hair, and if you think about how do you look after hair, you wash it. So you can use any soap on it, hand soap, dish soap, something like that. You can get special brush soaps to use as well, but they're not necessary.
You buy them in art shops if you want to go down that route, but I find some good warm water and a little bit of soap usually cleans it out for me.
Yeah. And occasionally you can even put a little bit of hair conditioner on them as well if you want to keep them in tip-top condition, but that's absolutely not necessary. The most important thing though is looking after your brushes whilst you're painting. So don't dab them into the paint pot, so you get paint all the way up to the metal part of the brush. Don't leave them in the water so the brush tip bends. Don't stab at your model with them. It's a collection of hairs bound up in the end, so you want to take care of them.
Do you guys ever use airbrushes by Rev J?
I do. I use airbrushes for a lot of priming stuff, and if I'm doing large pieces like a vehicle or a mech or something like that, I wouldn't use an airbrush other than to prime miniatures these size. I use it a lot on things like spaceships and things like that as well. If I want to do clever camouflage patterns as well, you can do stuff like use blue tack to mask stuff off, or you can buy vinyl airbrush masks as well. And I sometimes use it for weathering effects for stuff as well. So I'll use it if I want to spray on a varnish and then maybe put a chipping fluid over the top or something like that.
Okay.
No, I've never used an airbrush. I'd like to try it, but I'm quite happy with hand painting. But I think for priming, it would be a godsend.
Yeah.
To be fair, but
it's also useful when you're doing terrain as well, because if you're making terrain out of something like EVA foam, which is like a polystyrene foam, a lot of rattle cans, the propellant in that will eat into the foam, and so you can instead use an airbrush to put colour down on it without worrying about the foam melting, and this lovely piece of terrain that you've just spent hours building suddenly disappears into a pile of goo in front of you because you've used the wrong can of spray on it.
I have an old devil bliss. Literally spend more time than
any tips for a
devil bliss?
Any tips for cleaning an airbrush?
Literally spend more time cleaning the damn thing than painting. Yeah, and that's a common thing that a lot of people say. I mean, I went on a airbrush course to use my airbrush, and one of the things that they showed me is, first of all, the paints that I was using, which were Tamiya acrylics, which a lot of people use, are actually quite stinky because they've got alcohol in them. Although they're acrylics, they've got alcohol in them. The alcohol atomizes and it stinks. And my wife always used to say that she knew as soon as she came in if I'd been airbrushing, because she could smell the atomized alcohol.
You've been on that Tamiya again, haven't you? Come home stinking of paints and stuff.
So I switched to another brand of acrylics. I use Vallejo. And you don't have to spend loads of time cleaning it. After you've finished a colour, empty out what's left in the pot. But one of the really important things that they taught me was don't let the paint run dry in the airbrush paint pot. Because when the paint runs dry, you're blowing air through it, which dries the paint that's inside the airbrush on the airbrush. So as much as possible, try not to let the paint run out in the cup. You always want a little bit left when you finish with that colour. And then just flush it through with water, and keep flushing it through with water. Wipe out the inside of the pot. You can, depending on your airbrush, you can sometimes put your finger over the end of it and blow back into the pot so it cleans out the inside of the airbrush as well. But you shouldn't have to completely disassemble it and take it apart to clean it in between colours. That's what I found anyway. And then at the end of the day, when you've finished with it, then that's when you take it apart, clean it completely, maybe use some airbrush cleaner. Maybe you got some airbrush lubricant that you put back on the needle as well when you reassemble it. Yeah, old toothbrush for weathering and controlled splatter. Yeah, absolutely. And also bits of foam. Did Ethan do some chipping with the foam?
I think he did.
Yeah, we both did. We used that for we use it for chipping. Bit of sponge pack. Brillo pad. You get the green bit, cut that off, and that's a really handy way of just doing some just gentle.
And blister packaging as well is really useful for that.
Yeah, I think that was one of Reese's top tips.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch some of the stuff that Reese was doing, there's some very good little tips about crafting and hobby crafting in general. So it's, if you're new to that kind of thing, especially terrain building, there's a lot of great little tips that you can use. But some of it is Gavin has a wealth of experience. A lot of the stuff is I've just sort of learned from just what feels right to me. I'm not a very technical painter in the slightest. Anyone who's seen my miniatures will know that. But there's such a wealth of resources out there. I mean, thankfully, we're in a job where there are a number of painters in our office, and we can all get each other's help and advice. But the fact that you can go on YouTube and you can, whatever you're kind of into painting or whatever effect you want, there is somebody who can show you a variety of ways. There's just as many ways in the same thing. So it's a really good resource, that, but some of it is just, trial and error. So like how I'll paint things like orcs and goblins and things like that now is completely different, just through trial and error, than when I was when I first started out painting and in my mid years or whatever. So
yeah, and you might not always want to paint them the same way.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah. Like so, the way I'm painting now is like is the way I really enjoy doing it, and it's much more fun for me at the moment. But I'm sure that will change when I move on to something else and I find a new technique or some new paints or a new way of doing it. It's like new paints, but
It's interesting because when you look at something like Elder Scrolls, the colour palette in that is actually quite muted. There's a lot of browns, a lot of greys. You get a bit of colour with the Stormcloaks and Imperials because they're wearing blue and red uniforms. And
yeah, so that's the thing. When I was looking for some colour schemes for Ralof, I knew I wanted to keep some blue because of Stormcloaks. It just seemed very obvious, but I knew there's gonna be a lot of browns and greys. And I just was trying to think of like colours or approaches just to make it just stand out a little bit. So it's not like it's not so muted the whole time.
yeah.
You don't want just black colours. You want it to pop.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of sort of the grim dark sort of look. That's that's my thing. But sometimes I actually do like to paint things bright.
Well, this is what I was going to say. If you look at something like Elder Scrolls, which is quite muted, and then compare it to something like Fallout, which has got a lot more brighter colours in it, they're two very different ways. You wouldn't necessarily paint something like that the same way as you would paint something like
Exactly.
this.
Yeah.
That's very true.
But a lot of it is all depending on your personal aesthetic and how you interpret the universe.
Yeah.
I mean, you can make Elder Scrolls if you want to gaudy as all get out, or you can make it very, like I said, very muted. So I think
absolutely. I mean, there's no painting police.
No.
They're not going to come around and arrest you.
I like to have sometimes I like to have a nice balance between it. It just depends on what I'm doing. Some of my armies are very much bright and gaudy, and some are very muted. So sometimes it's nice to have something which is a nice balance in between the two. I'm just trying to think what I'm going to do next. I'm just going to let the brown dry. I'll pop them down there while I think I'm going to do my dark brown for the. I've got is that werewolf brown or something? I think it's werewolf.
Bear with me. I'm just got a bit of a haircut operation style.
Try using inks for airbrushes. Yeah, then.
Inks for airbrushes. Yeah, inks work really well for airbrushes.
I heard about a really good airbrush technique for weathering at QuakeCon recently.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the mustard technique.
The mustard,
right.
Where you put on, so if you put on a base coat of silver, and then you put a thin layer of mustard over the top.
Mustard colour or
no
mustard?
Actual mustard.
Right. Okay.
And then what you do is you
like
wave
Coleman's mustard. Other mustards are available.
Yes. And then apparently you let that dry. You paint over the top, and then you go over that with either a hairdryer or something like that.
Yeah.
And what essentially happens is the mustard flakes off.
Right.
Then you use a bit of water. Use oil-based paints, obviously.
Yeah.
But you use a bit of water and wash off the mustard, and it basically leaves a nice little rusted, weathered-looking pattern below it.
I have tried the salt and hairspray technique. Are you familiar with that?
Salt and hairspray.
Salt and hairspray.
Salt and hairspray. Yeah.
What is that?
So again, it works really well on large models, vehicles, that kind of thing that you want to give the chipped and weathered kind of look. And it works in a similar sort of way. So basically what you do is you get your vehicle and you paint it a nice rusty brown colour. Maybe vary it a little bit so you've got a mottled rusty colour. You then spray hairspray on it.
Okay.
And I find the cheapest, stickiest hairspray that I can. And then you take salt, both big clumps of like sea salt and smaller, finer, granular salt, and you sprinkle it on the hairspray while the hairspray is wet, so the salt sticks to hairspray.
Okay.
And you put the big chunks where there's going to be lots of chipping, so around hatches, on the edges of mudguard, that sort of thing, and the little chunks you sprinkle around a bit more.
Okay.
And then you would airspray your base colour over the airbrush, your base colour over the top of it. And you then get a toothbrush and some water, and you basically brush the salt off, and it comes away and it leaves the rust colour showing through underneath.
Okay.
And the big chunks make big
Big rusty bits,
rust,
yeah.
and little chunks. Make little chunks of rust. Excuse me. I tried doing that with Games Workshop Foundation paints once. It did not end well.
Could you possibly Monster Brown?
Yes. Sorry, you did ask me.
Yeah, that
Monster Brown. There
Monster Brown. Thank you. I'm just going to put a bit of the blue wash on, and then I'll move on to the bow, and the leather trimmings.
Painting police are not real, Hexblue. Don't let people tell you they are.
Until John gets back.
Until John gets back. Yeah, he's our painting commissar.
Well, I think
this is where I find out John is watching the stream.
John's very. He's more forgiving of painting transgression than wargaming transgression. So yeah, I mean, everyone has a different style. Everyone's different, and everyone's always got to learn in places. So yeah, I think anybody who's just. I think anybody in this day and age who's actually doing like picking up a paintbrush, it's a good thing.
Yeah, as long as they're being creative and not just...
It's such a much more open hobby than it has been for many years. So anyone picking up a paintbrush, it's good for them.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the areas that we do as well. When you start looking at historicals, that's when you get to the people who are like, well, they didn't have facings that colour, and that's the wrong colour for that particular time period for these particular troops. That's when you do get people who are a bit more uptight about it.
Yeah.
But in fantasy and sci-fi and post-apocalyptic,
do what you want.
Do we want what?
Do what you want.
Do what you want.
Do what you want.
Absolutely.
Do what you feel.
Do what you like.
Okay. This hardened carapace is coming off a kind of
it's
like a dark chocolatey brown, which isn't too bad.
When it's a really, I think I said it before in the streams. I actually really do like the grey range, the grey tones in this range. You can get a really nice progression going to a much lighter greys and almost whites if you really build them up. I did it on some models with like leather jackets or black denim jackets, and it was really good just to get a nice build up. So you can go from like hardened carapace right through to like ash grey, I think it is, and you got dungeon grey, which is a nice mid-tone grey. So that was just like a lot of playing around with this range. So I haven't done it for a while, but sometimes my lunch breaks, we just get the box out and just play around with stuff.
That's one of the nice things about this hobby, which I'm slowly learning, is just the fact that if you get a little bit of time, you can spend half an hour just being like, I'm just going to build up a layer there. Yeah. It's one of those slow things, which it's quite relaxing, and you see results. Yeah, which is one of those nice things.
It's quite relaxing when it goes well.
Yeah, when it's not, it's
I'm never painting another.
Yeah, I give up on snapping my brushes and getting a less expensive hobby, but no. So sometimes I get out of the habit of doing it, but just doing a little regularly is better than doing a lot in one go. I find.
Rad tone of green. Oh, thank you.
Pretty green.
What?
Greeny yellow.
Greeny yellow. It's kind of like a sickly, radiated yellow, because I figured it's a mutant, radiated. It's been swimming in the glowing sea.
It's not really a sea, as I learned.
It's not really a sea. It's just, or maybe just practicing. Oh, wait,
it's a metaphor, swimming in the glowing sea.
So, swimming in the glowing sea.
Metaphor of being irradiated.
Yeah.
Right.
I have to say.
Do you know what? So you've got so it's werewolf fur. Sorry, is what I was looking for. I've actually got monster brown.
Have I just taken all of the
you've taken all the browns?
Want?
No. It's I actually had a monster brown. So there's actually two.
I've got wet mud.
I think it's
wet. Dirt splatter, fur brown, leather brown.
Well, it might be in that box. Oh, there we go. Well, fur.
Oh, fantastic. I feel that might be good to start the bow off, just to offset it. And then I'm going down my list of colours, so
very organised.
Yeah, I thought I would be. Like I said, with these army paint ones, when you start getting the combinations and the build-ups right, they're a really good range. But sometimes when you're just sort of slapping things around, some are very liquidy, or as we found last week, some of the reds are extremely orange, and then that red rocket turned into an orange rocket, and then I had to take a bit of time going back to a foundational colour.
And that's another colour that's quite tough to paint, is red, to get a good, consistent red.
Yeah.
So what's the hardest colour to paint with, aside from, does it just depend?
Yellow.
It is yellow.
It's just, as you'll find, it's very, you put some on pants, it's just very transparent, especially if you're doing on a black base coat. So if I was doing yellow, if I decided, because as Ralof is a blonde, apparently, I would have to start with a brown on it. If I just add yellow, it would just look streaky and horrible, and the black would just show all the way through.
Yeah.
But if I put a couple of, if I put like a layer.
I remember the horrors of GW yellows. Yeah, I still don't think they're any much better in that regard.
I mean, there is some science behind it when you look at whites as well, because white is a difficult colour to get. There's only a few pigments that can use that give you a good white. One of them is titanium oxide. If anybody does fine art painting, they'll know of titanium white, and Bob Ross talked about titanium white a lot as well. And titanium white has got quite large pigment pieces. I nearly said pixels then, but pigment, I don't know what you call them, granules, which means that a lot of the time whites can be quite gritty.
Yeah.
So this is why when you look at some of the newer paints that are designed to flow, like the new Games Workshop contrast paints, they don't use a white base coat. They use either a grey or sort of a bone colour, because if it was pure white, to get the pure white, you need to use that titanium oxide pigment, which is gritty. And when you put the contrast paints over the top, it would look terrible.
Yeah. I found out the other day, speaking of white, polar bear's fur is not white.
Yeah, it's black, isn't it?
Yeah, it's to do with like light refraction.
Polar bears. Now, I have 11 interesting facts about polar bears.
I really want to hear them.
All 11.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's hear
From
it.
least interesting to most interesting.
Oh, I don't know that I can do it that way.
Oh.
Polar bear fact number 1 is that polar bear's fur is not white. It's actually translucent.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Polar bear fact number 2 is that polar bear's fur is hollow.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Each individual hair is hollow. If polar bears are kept in, this is not an interesting fact, but if polar bears are kept in captivity, they can sometimes have algae grow inside the fur, which turns them green.
Green polar bears.
Green polar bears, but in some countries, green is an unlucky colour, so instead they dye them purple.
Because purple's a much luckier colour.
Well, not for the polar bear, but there you go.
It's a more regal colour.
Well, imagine a purple polar bear trying to hunt things in the wild.
I think that's one of those things.
Well, no, this is if they're in captivity.
If they're in captivity.
If they're in the wild, they're not going to get algae growing in their fur.
Or if they were released from captivity.
Do you want to hear my polar bear facts or not?
Keep going, Gavin. I'm sorry.
Polar bear fact number 3 is that polar bears are the only land mammal to actively hunt humans as part of their diet on a regular basis.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So in some places in the world, humans are not top of the food chain.
No.
The polar bear is.
You always hear stories about people on these Arctic like trips, and then to get dragged out their tent. Yeah. It's like, we're going to happen to a schoolboy a few years ago, but I knew there was something about the translucency. I couldn't remember it, but I had. That's when you hear stuff about later life, and you're like, that's mind blowing in a way.
Interesting fact number 5.
Excellent.
Polar bears are so well insulated that if you look at them on an infrared camera, they're invisible. So polar bears are stealth.
There is a game in there somewhere. Stealth polar bears.
Stealth polar bears hunting
We're
you.
always trying to work out how to make things go stealth in
polar
games.
bears, the honey heist.
Yeah. Interesting fact number 6, most polar bears are left-handed.
But do they have hands?
Left-pawed. Most polar bears are left-pawed. Not all of them, but most of them. The Inuits actually have a saying beware the deadly left when they talk about polar bears.
It's more like to swipe with the left.
Swipe with his left, yeah. Fact number, what are we up to? 7, I think.
You're doing good. It's
polar bears usually have twin births. Not always, but usually. It was previously thought that they always had twin births, but that's not now the case. They've seen that they do sometimes have single births, but they're usually twin births. Polar bear fact, I'm struggling now.
7, 8?
8, this is.
Okay.
8. Oh no, I've forgotten my remaining 3 effects.
Anybody at home, anyone watching, have they been keeping count?
I'm gonna have to come back to it now,
Yeah.
because I can't remember the rest of my polar bear facts, and I'm probably boring people as well.
That's not true. Bear facts are, necessities.
You went there, didn't you?
I did.
Stealth, was it Yao Guy? Is that how they're pronounced?
Yao Guy.
Yao Guy.
Yeah.
Young guy, oh, they're fearsome.
He's barely halfway through, yes.
Barely halfway through. Let's see if we did that.
It's almost impossible to continue. Oh.
I was trying to work out if there's like a minor point. I don't know. That's it's really stretching it. Alright, so so who I can't remember who was in chat. So this is the point where I'm going to switch to a slightly smaller brush. This is just labelled fine, but most rangers will do fine brushes, which would be a smaller one. So this is so I can get to just start putting a little bit colour on the leather straps on old Ralof here. So I'm only using 2 brushes today, just the standard one and this fine one. So I guess it's like a 0.5.
Oh yeah, polar bears' livers are poisonous.
They're poisonous.
So-
Yeah, they contain too much vitamin D, I think. Of course, you've got to get the liver out of the polar bear first.
Yeah, that's
which has hazards in and of itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, polar bear liver is poisonous. So if you ever kill a polar bear, don't eat the liver.
Don't eat the liver.
Polar bear, wag.
I apologise if the stream is cancelled early due to my poor jokes.
I just remember as a school, they had this guy years ago. He did a lot of travelling around rural Japan, like looking for various plants and medicines, and there was something called the Mamusi snake medicine, which you had to get only from a Mamusi snake, which was really poisonous. So the antidote was in its urine, but the thing is, to get the urine, you had to catch the snake and probably get bitten and then use it as an antidote at the same time. It seemed very much a kind of a really fruitless endeavour, but like a lot of trial and error in finding that one out. But it was, I always remember like, now you can get this antidote, but to get it you have to capture one, and they're really, I think they're called Mamusi snake. I can't remember, it was a long time ago, but I always remember it was just a
poisonous or venomous.
Column A, column B. Having grown up in countries with deadly snakes, there's really not much distinction between the two.
Well, poisonous is something kills you if you eat it. Venomous is something kills you if it bites you.
I will say mostly venomous. So, should I? I'm trying to think. One of my earliest memories was seeing someone bite the head off a snake in my bedroom.
Really?
Yeah, he was a snake catcher.
Where was that?
Brunei.
Brunei.
But snake catcher is a euphemism for the handyman with a weed whacker. Who will come to your house and get rid of the snake.
Get rid of the snake.
By any means necessary. Because it was a bungalow, I saw him pick up a snake and bite its head off.
Blimey.
But yeah, it was
pretty intense.
Yeah, it was a very intense country like that. You'd have like a bungalow, and then it would just be a steep drop, and it'd just be jungle. And they would just crawl into your house. And we had a cat who used to disappear off into the jungle to hunt snakes, and he would come back with cobras and rip necks.
Wow, that's a nails cat.
Yeah, he because we couldn't bring him back to the UK at the time. He lived for till like 86, 87 we left there, and he lived through weirdly until the maybe early 2000s, deaf and blind, and he's going to the jungle hunting snakes. Yeah, it was just like we bumped into the guy who took over the house, and he was like, oh yeah, that cat was just going into the jungle looking for snakes.
Hi Huzia, hi Jetsam, how's it going? Welcome to the stream.
I will try and avoid too many of my strange childhood tales like last week when we talked about Universal Studios.
Interesting snake tales. I was a couple of years ago. I was in South Africa doing a sound design internship for a nature documentary company, and I remember I was staying with my cousins out there, and one day we were just in the studio and someone was like, "Oh yeah, they caught a snake outside," and I was like, "Oh, it'd just be snake. There were plenty of those in Africa." Outside, there's a giant rock python that's literally just sitting outside, and this guy's just like pinning it down. This thing must have been like 10, 15 feet
Rock
long.
pythons are not small.
They are absolutely enormous snakes, and I was just like, and this guy was just like carrying around. I was like, "Oh yeah, it's really aggravating." I was like, "It looks aggravated. It looks very aggravated." It's like, yeah. It's like, why is this still here? I'm waiting for it to cool down. I wouldn't be cooling down.
I generally don't think. A lot of people do keep snakes, but I guess growing up in a country where I've been in proximity to so many dangerous ones, I just don't see the appeal, quite frankly. It's like,
there's that urban legend about a person who keeps snakes, and they wake up one day and their python is laying down on the bed next to them.
Oh yeah.
And they send to bed up. They go to the vets and say, "Oh, the snake's behaving really weird.
it's not eating. Yeah,
it's not eating, and it keeps laying down on the bed next to me." And the vet says to him, "Yeah, it's measuring you to see if it's big enough to eat you yet."
Yeah. Do they actually do that? I wonder.
I think it's probably an urban myth, but then I don't keep snakes. So.
No,
I think there's an element of truth in there. Like all good tall tales. There's an element of truth.
You can't trust a snake. I think that's.
Well, let's not be snakeist. I'm sure there are some very trustworthy snakes.
No.
Snake Plissken, he's pretty trustworthy.
Who?
Snake Plissken.
Snake Plissken.
Solid snake.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think the Snake Plissken really a trustworthy person. That's sort of not really a thing.
Isn't he dead?
I heard he was bigger, but we're going to John Carpenter Appreciation.
Yeah. We've moved from the Modiphius nature stream to.
If there are any other animals you would like us to talk about or have any kind of prejudices against?
The new Fallout scenery set on the shop today. If anyone missed it, there were 4 new Fallout scenery sets on the shop today.
4 new scenery?
Oh, that's fantastic if there are. I haven't been on the Modiphius website in a little while, so I'm a little behind.
We will be for our army planning.
Yeah.
So I'll be going for a Minutemen army, I think.
Are there any chameleon stories? I don't personally have any chameleon stories. I've got a nice shark story.
Tell us your shark story.
Well, in South Africa. Shark and Joy, that's a good pair of sharks. In South Africa, they got shark nets because obviously they got lots of big dangerous sharks that go and swim in the shore. And I was like, so I went swimming in the ocean. I was like, oh, this will be fine. And then I got out and we were walking up the pier, and someone explained, and my cousin explained to me how shark nets work, and they were like, okay, so what they have is
big net that keeps the sharks.
So yeah, they don't have one big net. They've got 3 nets.
Do they?
So they've got 2 nets which are like this and this, with a big hole in the middle, and 1 net which is behind them like that.
Now, I'm not a shark expert, but it seems to me that couldn't the sharks just swim through the hole?
That's exactly what I said, and the response was, no, they can't, because from their perspective, swimming towards it, it looks like one big net.
Okay, that's fine, I get that. But what if they're swimming at it from the side?
That was what I said, and they said they don't do that.
They don't?
They don't.
Sharks never do that.
This is where you heard it. Sharks do not swim diagonally.
Something we found out in war game design. Oh, shark can't move diagonally.
Sharks can't move diagonally.
Apparently, that's the reason they can't be kept in captivity, great whites, because it's something to do with...
Because they can't swim diagonally?
No, it's something to do with perception or something like that. It's really weird. Like, I don't know, I have to look it up. It was one of those things you read and you that's really an odd thing. I've never seen a great white in captivity.
No, I've never either. Have I got enough yellow and...
Anybody is a shark fan and knows why great white sharks can't be kept in captivity, or whether it's an urban myth, please let us know.
I mean, if any of the films that I've ever seen are anything to go by, it's because they will escape and kill everybody.
And they also have a really good intergenerational memory.
Yeah.
It's
can we get a table cam update?
Yeah,
so,
sure.
Giles, do you want to go
so
first?
Yeah, I've been working sort of the leather straps on Rala. So he's taking a little bit more form. So I'm just working now back on the blue. And hopefully I might do a bit of metallics later, but I'm getting the base colours down him, so he's looking pretty good. Jono, let's have a look at your guy.
Alright, so
hot mustard.
That's a hot mustard there. I've got quite a blocky.
Turn down the brightness on your screen.
It's quite a bold brown colour, which I'm hoping to go over a bit more with a few darker layers.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go straight to like the darkest black because that feels like. And if you go straight to the extreme, then like you said, you don't really get the emphasis of the different shades and tonalities of the colour. Yeah. I might go back with the yellows. I might go with the light green just to give it a bit more kind of like that sort of toxic kind of. I bet everyone's seen the Toxic Avenger film with.
She is Class of Nukem High.
Class of Nukem High. That's a great film.
That's on Amazon Prime at the moment. I was like, some way to watch this.
I've got that on DVD.
So look at that game. So, and you're doing your Draugi, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. What's that looking? It's looking pretty good.
Yeah, I've just been tidying him up. I repainted the fur colour on there, so if you spin him round, you can see he's got a lovely pair of furry Ugg boots on.
Oh, nice.
Nice. At the moment. And I'm just doing the same with Lady Dragonborn at the moment, just going over her metallics.
Yeah.
Areas that are going to be metallic with black.
Oh, that's looking really good. Is that the rough iron you've used, or?
No, that's just black.
Oh, cool.
It's just black, so that forms a base coat for the
metallics.
For the metallics. Again, if you want to spin around.
Yeah, just so I was examining the Drauga. That's looking really good. I started going to the habit of not necessarily always basing my metallics with black. I used to always do that as a matter of course, even when I used to prime things white. But
yeah, I'm doing it partly on these ones because there's a lot of very small metallic areas, and if I prime them with black, I can remember where they are.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
Are they polar bear boots though?
What would they be in Skyrim? They would be cave bear. Do you get polar bear boots?
You get snow bears?
You get snow bears, don't you? So they could be snow bear boots.
Snow bear boots, that works.
Snow bear boots.
That's a fun word to say. Snow bear boots.
Snow bear boots.
Snow bear boots.
Snow bear boots. Other annoying songs are available. Right, they've got a load of buckles on the side of the snow bear boots. I'm just looking at them now.
I'm just going to add a bit of a brown wash ink to the jerkin just to give a bit more definition.
Frost troll boots. Oof. The first frost troll boot. The first frost troll you meet on High Hrothgar. Oof, that's
which are the ones?
That's a moment. Isn't
that's
it?
a moment
that's
when you're like, I'm not ready for this.
Moment, isn't it?
Which are the ones that I kept on dying? The one that kept on kicking me down the hill. They're like hill giants. Or
hill giants. Yeah, you don't want to mess with a giant.
Yeah, that was because when you first started playing it, straight out of the game, you went and attacked the giants.
Yeah.
Didn't you? Level like 1, straight out of hell.
I got 300 kicked in the face down the mountain. Like tenacious, stupid but tenacious. You know, that was my approach.
How many times did you try and kill the?
A lot. And full disclosure, Ethan lent it to me on his Switch, and I accidentally deleted over one of his games.
Oh dear.
I am not. My computer skills are legendary bad in that regard.
So if I want my yellow to have a kind of green tinge, do I need to go over it with a layer of green, or is that for washes?
You can use a wash. There's a couple of different things you can do. We've got some pre-made washes knocking around.
Yeah, they're the ones with the red caps.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got some brown ones. So which do you want? A green one?
I kind of want a green one.
So there's a couple ones. You have this one here, which is just a straight up green, and there's one which is military shade. So I'm not sure if it's.
But you can always make your own wash as well, because we've got some mediums here, I think, as well. We've got some medium mixing. There we go.
So what are they?
So a medium is basically paint without any pigment in it.
Okay.
So it's the medium that you put pigments into. If you need to water down your paint and you don't want to use water.
Yeah.
So for instance, there are some materials that are what are called hydrophobic.
Yep.
And they don't like water.
The water resistant, yeah.
Reaper bones are an example of those.
Okay.
So you can't thin your paints with water if you're painting Reaper bones, because it all just goes bloop and goes into little bubbles on the surface. So you can use medium for that. And also washes, oftentimes, if you thin them with water, when they dry, you get like a kind of milky consistency in places.
Yeah.
So you would use medium for it instead.
Okay.
Sometimes you want a really thin wash. You only want to give a hint of colour.
Yeah.
So when I get round to doing the Draugr, for instance, he's got glowing eyes.
Yeah.
And so once I've painted all his metallics, I will paint his eyes white, and then I'll give a thin blue wash to make it look like there is a glow around them.
I see.
But I don't want to use the regular wash because that will make the metallics look like it's blue steel or something like that. Whereas in fact, I just want to give that hint.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what you can use a medium for. And you can also create your own washes. If you needed I don't know what we haven't got, say you needed a purple wash, and we didn't have any purple wash made up, you can use some medium and some purple paint. And then use the medium to dilute the paint to create a wash.
Okay. So have I put enough of a base layer on before a wash?
Let's have a look. What do you think?
I think I'll probably go with a few more layers. But then again,
I think you're probably all right, to be honest with you, because this is, if you imagine this is your middle, this is your middle ground yellow, and what you're going to do is you're going to put a wash on it, which is going to give you your deep colours. Okay. Because the wash is going to run into all of the folds of his skin. And then once that's done, you let that dry out, and then maybe you want to do a dry brush, which will take you up and hit all the highlights. Okay. Now maybe that actually what you want to do is emphasise his muscle tone first, so you might do a darker brown wash that will give you the shadow.
So you can use things like the mid brown, for example. Or I mean, flesh wash is a bit darker, but you can go for like a light. You can even try maybe doing a light tone, which would be a lighter version of this. Funnily enough. And
it's quite a light yellow, so I might go with a light tone to start off.
Yeah, and then you can see if you want to go darker, then you can probably even do a light wash with the mid brown or even the flesh wash.
The predominant colour that's going to sit on the high edges. Yeah. If you want to give him a green tinge, then you probably want to emphasise the shadows first, which will be your darker wash. And once that's done, you can put a glaze of the lighter wash over the top, which will turn that then into the greener colour.
Okay, fantastic.
Make sure he's nice and dry first, though. Okay. Nothing worse than putting wash on, and it dilutes all of your paint. Okay.
So, do you have Banshee Brown by any chance?
I don't think that I do. I can just have a look. They're all metallics.
Yeah. So we'll go here.
Basilisk Brown.
Corpse Pale. Bob Ross never used these colours.
Strong tone.
Matte black. No, not in there.
So what are we looking for?
I'm looking for Banshee Brown. I think it'd be kind of a light. It should be a pale brown.
Wet mud, crystal blue, arid earth.
Oh my curve! Oh my curve! Here we go. Banshee Brown. Here we go. Right. So
that's quite light.
Yeah. So
what's that one for, Giles?
That I'm going to use for my jerkin on Raloff. So I've just added the wash and it's just drying there, so it'll get a bit more definition, and then I'm going to kind of lighten it up a little bit. So I'm not going to like do a full layer, but I will just do sort of like patches of it just to create some light points on it. And I think it'll.
So with washes, are they primarily liquid? So you I just need a very small amount.
Yeah, you need enough to cover your model.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would apply it with a larger brush as well.
Okay. I've got this one, which is relatively.
Here you go. Look, there's a nice number 3. Okay. Synthetic brush as well, so that's good.
Just tidy up the straps a little bit more.
That feels like enough. Is that enough?
Yeah, that's plenty.
Okay.
Right, now what I would do
is
just test it out first of all and see what kind of consistency it is. So that's still a little bit thick maybe. Test it out on a little bit, on his toes maybe, and see how it goes.
Give his toes a wash.
Give his toes a wash. That's it, just go to the top. You can be quite generous with it.
Yeah, okay.
Alright, what do you think of that?
I don't think it's really doing a lot.
Okay. So good. Get plenty of it.
Okay.
Really gloop it on. As long as you use the brush to pick up any big puddles. You see where it's gone into the in between the toes.
Ah,
Which one is that?
This is the light tone.
Light tone, yeah. It might be alright. I mean, give it a go, but be quite generous.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you see it pooling anywhere, just touch the tip of the brush to it. The brush should draw it back up again. Okay. But you want it to go into all of the nooks and crannies and crevices. In fact, look, if I can just like that. You'll be able to see it really easily. If I just run it over his fur, see on the back of his head, there's not a bit much there. See, all of a sudden, it brings out, that's probably better.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because it kind of deepens bits. Ah.
And it sits in there, but what you don't want to do is let it pool up like that. So you just dab it with the end of the brush. See, there's a big blob just there.
Yeah.
Dab it with the end of the brush and it will draw it back up onto the brush. And there as well.
So to make sure it's nice and coated but not pooling.
Nice and coated but not pooling. I probably didn't want to do it on that fur around there for him. And again, I'll use a different colour on his skin.
Yeah.
I'll just do it on the leather and the fur bits on his Ugg boots.
Can you build up layers of washes as well?
You can, and you can do different colours as well.
Yeah.
So what you can do, you see on the inside of his shield,
Yeah.
just starting to bring out the wood grain on the shield there.
Yeah.
So what I'll probably do is I'll put some strong tone on that as well to bring out the wood grain on the shield even more. That was the wrong choice for us. Just like that, but that's okay. We can go over the top. Yep.
Okay.
Giles, could you just stick that on the close-up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Backwards, please.
Yeah. Oh, it's nice.
Paint's dried out. See, this is where I found a wet palette.
Ah.
It wouldn't have dried out. Polar bear add-on sprue for
Yeah, when the polar bears coming out in the range, Gavin?
polar bears, snow bears.
Will they be a playable faction?
Will snow bears be a playable faction? Can you play snow bears in the game?
I don't know.
Can I just dip it in this pot?
I
Or do I
reckon
need
there's a
a
mod
fresh
for
one?
that. Is there a mod for that? You can be a snow bear.
Snow.
There you go. That's a poll. No, it's not.
I'm sure I've seen a mod where you can play as the horse. Well, it might be a glitch. I can't remember which it was.
Yeah, horse bear. Same
Horse
diff.
bear.
Same diff.
4 legs.
Okay, yeah, he's a bit better. Right.
We're being too quiet. Apparently, we need to be a bit more boisterous.
Okay.
So, anyone else out there painting this afternoon? If you have, or you've got anything you want to show us?
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to see anything that you're working
There's
on.
been some really good stuff that's been sent through the last few streams I've been on. So it's, put some of our stuff to shame, or my stuff to shame anyway. So it's really good to see what people are up to. So
Anything I can learn from is always welcome.
yeah, so I'm gonna start brightening up the blue. I had to move to Twitch in the place because you guys are too quiet for the laptop. Okay, yes. Something we've never been accused for, and
Oh wow,
in the
too
dev pit.
quiet. Wow, okay, just
Yeah, there's other people in the office who would really disagree with that. Lots of cries of actually, you're wrong, and that's not a rule. Rules is written, and actually,
yeah.
was written.
screeched out across the office.
It's the collective name for wargamers, and
Actually.
actually of wargamers.
Yeah. Most myself in the middle of being moved from Reading to Glasgow. Oof. If you've got any pictures of anything you painted recently that's on your phone or anything like that, feel free to send them over. It's always good to see. This Fallout especially, or any other Modiphius stuff. What else do we have? Range with John Carter's.
Got John Carter,
Yeah,
got Star Trek minis,
Acting Cthulhu.
Acting Cthulhu.
Absolutely.
Close to your heart, Giles.
Absolutely. The greatest game we do. Yes, they're very nice miniatures. This Sing miniature is a really good one. I'd like to get one and paint that up. I'll probably put a bit too much blue on this, but I'll probably put another wash onto to deepen it.
Mike's still set for Charlie. Charlie does have a very resonating voice. It's just very high pitched.
What's the best painted model you guys have ever seen, converted or otherwise? Games Workshop Gold Demon or otherwise?
It's difficult to describe. There's one I did see recently, and it was of a soldier shooting a skeleton in the head, but it was like the sort of the trail of the bullet. You can probably find this on Instagram. I just liked it because it just had a lot of character to it. But I mean, I see so many really good painted models. I mean, we're sat next to good painted models a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So, but that was one that just in recent memory I saw. I mean, I think it's on Instagram page called Golden Demon Compendium, and you can have a look through. But it's just of a soldier shooting a skeleton with a musket, and it's just a really nice diorama. But that one's just sort of just been in my forefront of my mind recently. But it's hard to say. I mean, you see so many. Anytime you look at a Facebook page or anything like that, you always see some really good models.
I'm a big fan of the big fantasy dioramas. So when you see lots of like a mass war going on, when you see guys with bows, you see wizards hurling spells, and everything just looks just so good. And it's one of those ones where you look at it, you're like, I want to play that. I don't know what's going on, but I want to be playing that. That's when you know you've done a good one.
Yeah, there was a Games Workshop Vampire Counts army diorama years ago, where the vampire counts were assaulting a city, and it had like a causeway across a river, and there was a horde of skeletons and zombies attacking the city, and you had all the defenders in the city, and there was like a section of city wall. They had siege machines, and there were zombies and skeletons climbing up ladders onto the city, and there were loads of little tiny details in it as well, like there were skeletons crossing the water in the river, and there were some that were sunk into the resin, so you could just see like their heads below the surface, and then they were climbing up and trying to get through like drains in the wall and that kind of stuff. It was amazing. Those studio guys must have spent so long on it. How's it looking?
It's looking.
Do you want to swap in with?
Sorry, I left you chappy here drying.
The wash has definitely brought out a bit more of his. Area. It's made his muscles pop a bit more, which is always nice. The muscularity.
He's been putting his hours in at the gym, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been lifting planes. He's an aviator after all. Yeah. He's been firing that big SMG. The wash has definitely helped. It's had a bit of variation, so it's not just a flat colour. It's now it's various shades of that same colour, which is really nice.
Now, if that is not intense enough for you, what you could do is maybe switch it up to the strong tone, or maybe put some more wash on there once that one is dried. Yeah. You need to make sure it's dried, otherwise you'll just lift it off again.
Yeah, I found there's one point on his leg where I kind of nicked the thigh. It kind of looks like a flesh wound though, so that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. That's okay.
It's narrative painting.
There's narrative painting.
You can always put a little bit of green blood in there or something later on.
He's near Ralof, so it's near his knees, so
he's taken a. Let's not say it.
Let's not say it. We'll say it.
Here's a model we've always wanted to paint and haven't: a Titan, a Primarch, Liberty Prime, etc. Well, I want to get a Liberty Prime and paint him up because he's awesome and such good value as well.
Yeah, it's great value.
There will be some miniatures coming along for Elder Scrolls, which I'm not allowed to talk about, which I will absolutely want to be painting up as well, because there's some really, really cool ones there too.
I would like to paint the miniatures on my desk, which haven't been painted, so I can buy some more. No, the Liberty Prime one. It's one. I haven't seen a painted version of it yet. I don't know. Is there one?
I don't think there is.
The temptation is just to paint it silver and then that's it, and put a bit of a wash in it. But I think it's one that you could really go to town on with all the details. I think that's one of the ones actually I'd be really excited to do.
Yeah.
And in terms of non-metal paints, as we were talking about earlier, and what I mentioned, I've always wanted to have a go at the Forge World Rogal Dawn miniature, doing non-metal like the golds. Because I think that'd be kind of. I've always seen that on various social media pages, and I think it looks a really cool model to me. But that and Liberty Prime, I think, would be ones I would like to just sort of take a month off work and just spend at my desk painting.
And then when you eventually uncull from the desk,
yeah, and have to go to the I go to the chiropractor and get a rod put in my back so I can function. No, but I think those are the two which are top of my list at the moment. But yeah, we'll see if I can get a staff discount of Liberty Prime, please. It's like
I don't think there's any. See, ones I'd really like to paint. I quite like painting things which are as I'm quite new to it, things which are quite forgiving. So lots of big open areas which aren't too tricky.
Yeah, we'll get you painting some Brotherhood. For Secret Project.
For the Secret Project.
Yeah.
So what else? I like the idea.
I think you got two blind men here, so you might have to read out anything.
Is there any model, Gavin? Are there any big models that you'd like to paint?
Well, Liberty Prime, obviously. I don't know. Other than that, I mean, I've got lots of unpainted models, and I've got lots of good unpainted models. I've got some very old models that I've had a long time that I'm kind of afraid to start painting. It's something that John touched on last time we were looking at stuff as well, because all the time that I don't paint it, it's never going to be badly painted.
Yeah, it's like my Hero Quest project, which I want to do all in inks and washes, and I really want to do it, but there's a part of me which took me so long to get down a brand new set in good condition. I don't want to ruin it, and it's that fear. But I think once I get over that, it'll be fun.
Yeah, I got I kickstarted a board game a while ago, and I had in my mind. I mean, there's loads of miniatures in this board game. There's tons of them. It's Conan.
Oh yeah.
Is that the monolith one?
Yeah, and I had in my mind that what I was going to do was not paint them as miniatures, but paint them so they were like chess pieces or something like that. So I would do them in metallics and that kind of stuff. So the heroes would maybe all be in gold, and do the adversaries in sort of a dark metallic colour like steel or something like that.
Yeah. And if you're a Conan fan, we do a source book for Monolith as well, for the board game.
We do.
Yeah. And also the Robert E. Howard's Conan RPG book is an excellent book.
Yeah, you're a big Conan fan, aren't
you? Matt's understatement, but
he is.
I'm working at it, John. I'm working at it.
Don't skip leg day.
I didn't, and I'm paying for it because I am not leaving this desk today. I'll be here all weekend. The stream will never end until I finish Ralof. So I'm just going to leave him on there just so you can see where I'm at with him. I'm going to probably put another little wash on because I think I put a little bit too much of this lighter blue on, but it's brightening him up somewhat. So I am going to have a look. How are we doing for time?
It's about 4:30.
So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to light up the jerkin, and I might have time to start doing some of his chainmail. He's not the most ornate model in the range, but I think he's been a really fun and satisfying one to paint. So I think when he's released, people get a lot of fun out of painting him.
Yeah.
So I am currently using matte black to go over the bits which I want to paint in white or silver. So I figure that's a good colour to bounce off.
So Black Cat tabletop, Black Cat Gaming's tabletop. Is there any miniature that you want to paint? I'm going to turn that round.
Ooh, the flip reverse.
Yeah. So is there anything out there you want to paint, especially Fallout wise or anything like that? Answers on a postcard. And no one's asked, has anyone confirmed about sharks, great whites being in captivity? That's what I'm going to do when I get home. I'm going to be...
Just Googling.
Well, that's my Friday night sorted out. Sorry.
Live your life, Giles. Live your life.
There was a family, I think, we weren't sure if they got evicted who were living below us, and they left all their stuff out on the street, and probably shouldn't encourage them, but they had a huge David Attenborough Africa wildlife book. I did kind of pick it up as a reference book for drawing, so maybe I'll read through that. I don't know if there's anything about it. It was about crocodiles now and alligators, so
nice.
I can expand on my what's the not are they reptiles?
Yeah, crocodiles.
Yeah, my reptilian knowledge, as it were.
Expand.
So perhaps some more talking points for the next stream.
Did they have the criteria where you can tell if it's a crocodile or a?
Let's do like the size of the snout.
Well, no. If it's a crocodile, it will see you in a
And then-
while. And if it's an alligator, it will see you later.
Cut the stream right there. Oh, I think actually the difference between a crocodile and an alligator is one has
Actually, you're fine.
one has like spiky points going down its back, the other one doesn't.
It's not even doing like snout size.
I think that's another thing.
If you want to be all, scientific about
Scientific.
You're
talking about
science.
photosynthesis and cells and stuff like that. And
You and your scientific facts.
Mr. Scientist.
Yeah, you might win something with your facts. So, yeah, so for the Banshee Brown, it's actually pretty light. So I will, when it dries off, probably put another wash on it.
Wet mud. So this is what we'll be using for the Lady Dragonborn's hair. Wet mud.
Is that a new L'Oreal brand?
Because she's worth it.
Wet mud. To me, that sounds like a texture paint of some sort, rather.
Let's hope not, because she's about to go on her hair.
Ooh, Raider Prime.
Raider Prime.
It's also a colour scheme when you're going for who's the So Raider colours, they're kind of like Mad Max-esque. Sort of like, you need a pretty big bandolier to go around it.
Yeah, I think Ethan's going to be doing Raiders for one of our projects, and I'm really looking forward to see what he does. I think they're such good models. I was a bit jealous because I really wanted to go at Raiders, but you can't step on another man's army and do the same thing. So it'd be really interesting to see what he does with it.
I forget, what are you doing with your
I'm going to do Communist Minutemen. I just want to be really funny. So it'll be Comrade Gaston. Yeah, because that's my Preston model. I haven't started them yet, but that's something I'll be working on. I thought, because that's a good chance to use a lot of red, that notoriously difficult colour. So it will just be Minutemen, but I just find it kind of amusing that, what with Liberty Prime being announced, I thought it was kind of, there's no political motivation behind that at all. I just thought it would be kind of an amusing spin on it, and a way to just try and change the iconography around. Originally it was going to be very American, and I was going to try to do stars and stripes jackets, and
Oh wow, that's.
But I feel like painting red will be difficult enough to a good standard. So.
I'm going to be doing Atom Cat's Brotherhood.
Nice.
Ah.
I have to find out whether I'm allowed dogs in my army.
You are allowed dogs.
They will all be called Leica.
Leica.
Leica. Roger.
It's not set in stone, but I like the Minutemen. I've got a chance to use them recently, and they take a bit of work, but the synergy is really good. And
synergy.
Yeah, they have synergy, cross-brand synergy. They take a bit of work, and but the laser muskets are really good. And
laser muskets are very good.
Yeah, haven't been receiving a lot of laser weapons. It's nice to.
That's the gotta dish it out.
Yeah, exactly. I am a petty man.
Like a glove.
It's like that time I played Super Mutants, I took all the suiciders, and it felt so good. I'm not gonna lie.
That's why I play Mutants.
Yeah.
Black Cat's Gaming. Big question of how often do you wash your brush out in your tea rather than your water pot?
Well,
not today so far, but it has happened many times.
Well, so far it's happened every time to me. So as a learning, I see Giles has done something very clever. He's put his painting pot in front of his drinking mug. So he's always...
I've never been accused of doing anything clever, so thank you. I guess it's a compliment or not. I don't know. I'll take it.
So
oh dear. This is where I get my painting glasses that I don't have.
So So I kind of want a kind of skull white.
Do you wash your brush out in your tea? Well, I do emulate the great John Blanche, so that's my. I just pour. I put my brush in tea and I just smear it all in my sketchbook. Yeah, right. Slowly taking a bit of shape. I'm just going to add some washes, and then I'm going to see if I've got some time to do a little bit of metallics. I've got some blue still on my palette. So these burger separators are really good, Gavin. I'm really enjoying them.
Yeah.
It's keeping the tone relatively wet. Wet tone. That's the name of my band.
Wet tone.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm thinking for the underlayers of his black armor, I kind of want silver, so it kind of looks like chainmail.
Okay.
Because that would be quite cool. So I see lots of rope and stuff like that. So bits like there and this bit there. That bit like that. Those bits there I kind of like to highlight in silver.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a leathery strap bit, isn't it? That bit there. So that might be quite useful. So it's sort of a leather colour. And then are you having the armour plate's going to be black?
Yeah, so this one at the front, and I'd like for most of his armour to be black.
Yeah.
So he looks like a wasp.
So what you can do, is let's take a little bit of this grey. What's in there? Oh, hello. If you want to do kind of a
Tea is absolutely a wash. I saw it on YouTube, so it's true. Actually, no, I did see something about like doing calligraphy using tea as something kind of interesting.
I've seen that as well.
Yeah.
What you can do, and I'll show you on the Dragonborn, is the edges of his armour.
Yeah.
You can always just put little chips of silver. I should probably too big. Let's get a small one. 2000. There we go. You can take little chips off the edge of his armour in silver, just so it looks like the edges are all chipped and the paint is showing through underneath.
Yeah, so I'm still going to go. I haven't done much with the leather straps because as I'm doing some washes and highlighting, I will just tidy those up and go in more brown, so I'm not too worried if I.
And then if you do that with silver and black over the top, it will look
wash.
like the paint is starting to chip off the edges of it.
Ah, that's cool.
I'm going to paint that black again. But you've got the black down first, haven't you?
Well, I've got hardened carapace, which is it's quite dark. I mean, I'm happy with it being like a dark brown.
Yeah.
And I've got a matte black, which I've gone over a couple of times with the skulls.
Dry for a bit while I clean my brush.
Right. So I think I'm going to start on the metallics for the Draugr. And you'll notice that I have 2 pots of water here. And that is because when I use my metallic paints, I don't want to put them in the same pot of paint as I'm going to use for everything else. Okay. Because then when I clean my brush out, it might pick up little particles of metallics. Yeah. So that pot is always for the metallic paint.
Okay.
And that's why I do metallics last, so I don't mix it.
Cross-contaminate.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I want to paint the guns...
can we see the Dragonborn, Gavin? I think Johnny Cakes would like to see it.
Yes. She's in progress.
Here's Johnny Cakes. So I'll pop that down there.
That's looking really good. I kind of like the sort of gingery red hair.
Yeah, turn it around now. It's looking really good, Gavin. I think because with this one as well, because we said there's a lot of similar colour tones, like the browns and the flesh colours. You know, just take a bit of time, just making them a little bit more distinct. So it's looking really good. Getting those nice basic colours in. Is that the shield? We're going to pop the shield there.
Dark stone. Is that darker than hardened carapace?
Dark stone will probably be lighter.
Yeah. Ooh, rough iron. Is that darker?
Ooh. Yeah, it's very dark.
This is a metallic.
I used it. Yeah, it's a very, very dark metallic. So that when we were doing test the day with John, I used that on the armor. Okay. So it's a very dark colour.
That's okay. That'll work perfectly for a Draugr.
Absolutely, yeah. For any kind of rusting or decaying looking armor, that's a really solid colour to start working with.
So I'm gonna
Can you zoom in on that?
Does the camera have it does have a zoom on.
You are a technical whiz compared to me.
Do that. Is that good?
Is that zoomed in enough for you, Lloyd? You ready for the close-up?
I'll just wiggle that back a little bit.
Well, it's got quite a brown sheen to it, hasn't it? It's rough iron.
Yeah, it's really when it dries, it takes a real different. It takes a real different kind of quality.
Yeah.
There we go. That's all right.
It's a really interesting paint, and it's really nice to use for decaying.
Oh, I'll zoom in more. There we go.
It's almost a sort of bronzy colour.
Yeah, it's very deceptive because you can't. At first, it looks like it's a black, and then it goes bronzy and coppery. The metallics range in this paint, so I think take a bit of work, but you get some really nice effects with it.
So with metallics, do you always paint black underneath it?
No,
not always. That was always the perceived wisdom when I first started painting. That you would always say paint your sword or axe black.
Yeah,
and it helps. But I think the way the pigments and the quality of metallic paints has improved somewhat. It's not always necessary. Washes help darken things up, and so usually most ranges will have in this one. It's the gunmetal or lead belcher as well as GW painters we use. You can use that, then you can put a wash on it to darken it, and then you'll brighten up with lighter silvers for highlighting. So it's not necessary using black, but as I'm doing a black highlight here, it will certainly make it easier. The thing about black priming as well is it hides a multitude. So if there's little gaps, it can just look characteristic. Whereas with white, it can be quite unforgiving. So if I start using a lot of white or off-white primers, you have to be very specific with filling out the colours.
So let's get the rest of them. So I'm just going to move her off. Pop it back over here.
Thank you.
Giles is still busy, so I'll put
well, I'm just putting a little bit of...
Here's my aviator. It's looking all right. I mean,
are you happy with it?
Yeah, that's the most important. I mean, are you happy with it?
I mean, I'm a bit. So what I wanted is for him to look very much like an angry wasp, because that's kind of what he does in the game. He kind of buzzes around. He's hard to get rid of. He kind of keeps stinging you. He's not gonna take you out, but he's gonna keep stinging you.
He's not called Charlie, is he?
So I thought I wanted to paint him dangerously. So black and yellow seem to be the right way. I think I may need to do a lighter yellow so he looks more.
I mean, you can probably.
I mean, now I've done the wash on him. I kind of want to highlight other bits.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, your wash takes you down, and then you use like a dry brush or something to bring it back up again.
So do I use paint with the dry brush?
Give me 1 second, and I will show you how to do it with the dry brush. Let me just finish doing this metallic.
Oh, thank you, Johnny Cakes. It's it's a weird one. Like it's the wash definitely helps.
I think you set yourself an interesting challenge, and while it's easy to sort of want to just do a buy the book super unit, sometimes it's good to set yourself a challenge, and you learn quite a lot of lessons that way. And then, like I said, I mean, it's pretty good, like color wise.
Yeah, the skin looks alright. I'm not sure about the body pieces yet, but
like it's practice. How many models have you painted? Sometimes like when
this is number 2.
There you go. Exactly. So, and think of what you've learned for model number 3, and then 4 and 5. It's like a never-ending story.
So pick your paint that you want to do dry brushing with.
So I kind of want a toxic mist. I feel like that will really pop on the yellow.
Toxic mist.
Yeah.
That's blue.
It's kind of like a green.
It's blue.
It's
Pop right up down there. Let them dry for a little bit.
If you want to bring them up, you don't want to use a green. You want to use a yellow first.
I want to use a yellow first.
I'm going to use a brighter yellow first, and then we'll put a green wash over the top.
So I need the brightest yellow that is, which is demonic yellow.
Well, not straight away you don't, because you don't want too jarring a transition. You can do more than one dry brush.
Okay. So what are the yellows we got? We got.
What are you looking for? So there's demonic.
We've got bright yellow. So I forgot. I've used sulfide ochre. I've got
what evocative colour name would you like? Moon dust, Phoenix flames, there's demonic yellow, which is a very Jono sounding colour.
Demonic yellow.
Let's have a look.
Got troll claws here.
So that's more of a. Let's go for that one over there.
Demonic yellow.
Yeah.
Okay. Doing it live.
Dry brush.
Where's gun?
We are not going to use one of Jason's brushes for this.
Okay.
No.
Jason will be very cross if we were in one of his brushes. So what you want to do is we'll give you this one.
Thanks, Johnny Cake. So I'm going to, when that dries up, I'm going to start doing some metallics now, just so I fill out more of the colours. But I will go for a much lighter edge highlighting.
I'd shake this up more because the paint looks a bit.
Why would that ruin Jason's brush? Okay, so with dry brushing, if you look at if you pass me, Gavin, one of your dry brushes. So this is one of Jason's brushes, which has a point and is really good for what I've been doing today. This is what you use to dry brush on, or what a brush becomes when you dry brush it.
Dry brush is really hard on brushes.
You put it under the little camera.
Yeah.
So.
There we go. So
can't say bring it back.
So that is what happens to brushes that you use for dry brushing. They go from something like that to that, and that is why Jason would not be happy for us to use one of his brushes. But this isn't really a suitable brush for dry brushing anyway. It's for very broad. I mean, you can get detailed ones, but generally it's for covering, picking up detail almost, like raised edges and things like that, and adding textures.
This is a rubbish brush. You take some paint.
Yep.
Wipe most of it off.
Yeah.
Wipe most of it off. Keep wiping off, especially any great big globules you've got now. What I do is to do this. I'm spreading it around until there is paint on the brush.
Yeah.
But not a lot of paint on the brush. And then, if I may,
yep,
I'll just do it on his toes.
Okay.
You just brush it across like that. And you want the paint to hit the highlights. Like that. And just about see where it's starting to lighten up on the highlights of your toes.
Oh yeah.
So you go more. But you're dry brushing with yellow.
Yeah.
Which is tough because yellow doesn't cover very well anyway. So, and then if you just see it starts to build up on the top of his muscles.
It's very slight, but
it's very slight. So you need to let it dry, go over it again, let it dry, go over it again, and keep lightening it up. So
have it in.
Wipe, more. Move it around. Right, now have a look at the brush. Can you see any big globules on there?
No.
Right. And just run it over there. You're looking for the brush to hit the high points on the arm. And you can really flick it backwards and forwards as well. That's it? Yeah, like that.
Yeah, nice.
And then move on, because there's not a lot of paint on the brush anyway.
Okay.
Have you got, is that the gunmetal you've got there?
Gunmetal's here, I don't need a huge amount of it. Yeah, that's it. So for people who are more familiar with the GW range, gunmetal will be your lead belcher basically, or bolt gun or whatever they change it to on a regular basis. So it's that kind of more, that first kind of silver metallic colour you'll use before you build up to all your other brighter silvers or washes.
There is a temptation when you're doing this to think, oh no, that's not enough on there, I need to put more paint on the brush, but don't.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling right now.
I can't see it doing anything.
It's not doing anything.
It does, it builds it up in layers, but it's picking a difficult colour to try and do dry brushing with.
I'm trying to work out, so Gavin, being the Elder Scrolls man, the sort of shin guards for Ralof, are they metallic? I mean, because when you see the guys who painted the studio ones, they look so good. And I can't quite. can't quite work out whether they just did it kind of metallic or it was non-metallic, or whether they did it as a
Well,
leather.
they did non-metallics,
Yeah.
but I don't remember which bit of Reloff
I will.
was.
Do you know what? I'm going to take a gamble because I want to put a bit more silver on him. Just
Hey,
brighten
it's
him
your
up.
model, mate. You,
Yeah, I was using it as a reference guide because it's kind of nice to see what the finished product looked like and try and emulate. Sometimes I like to try and just emulate someone who's done something much better than me.
See. Just hits the highlights.
That's with the silver.
That's with the silver. So I've gone over it underneath with the iron, and then I put the silver over the top.
It's clever. I'm learning all sorts today. The skin's it's getting there. It's getting there. Through its face.
What are you guys putting your paints on? Is that a wet palette? So no, these were like as I said earlier, you use them for like burger making. They have a waxy kind of sheen to them, which Gavin brought in, and they make really good disposable palettes. So it's not a wet palette, but
you could use them in wet palettes.
It seems to be
the same
retaining,
sort of material.
It seems to be retaining moisture quite well for these particular ones.
And they're cheap because you buy them in like a pack of 100 from.
So you don't necessarily always need the sort of line approved palette papers or anything like that. No, they've been working really well, and
I will say one thing: metallics don't taste nice.
So which is the tastiest paint then?
well, they don't give particularly tasty names, do they? Like,
and that's the problem with them.
they're always like it's always like
tasty.
corpse brown. Ooh, I wonder what that tastes like.
Hardened
Yeah.
carapace. That's a tasty flavour.
Electric blue. I also remember. I think washes generally are okay because they're fairly not as heavy.
Does lime green taste better than putrid green?
Putrid green all the way. Well, zombie flayed one flesh. That's
yeah, tanned flesh. I bet that's all right.
I have what's this one? Barabian flesh. No, barbarian flesh. That looks
Barabian flesh.
Barbera. Barbera the barbarian.
Kobold skin, monster brain.
Yeah. So yeah, they don't give them the most appetizing.
Oh, need lost my glasses.
Bit of like candy apple red or something would be nice, but no. It's all got to be really violent names or desiccated corpse.
Dislocated corpse.
Dislocated. That's like.
Right.
Yeah,
Do you want to plonk him on the close-up camera?
Absolutely.
This is our Draugr Death Lord with some.
Oh, he's looking really good. Yeah, look at that.
5 minute warning, boys.
5 minutes, so.
My 79-year-old glued at the moment. Oh, we're talking about which paints taste the best. I hope they didn't pick anything up from this.
Yeah.
Warning, don't eat the paint.
Yeah, so.
Charles?
Sorry?
Give him a bit.
Give him a little twirl. This Draugr Overlord is wearing this season's distress leather tunic.
It's looking good though.
Yeah.
There's some really nice tones in on there. You give it a little zoom. Just a little. Oh, oh, that's a bit blurred. Let's go back a bit. There we go.
I'm sure. Spin on the side.
See the way the light sort of shines off the shield and gives it a nice number of different tones. It's really good.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. We'll see how your super mutant's getting on.
I mean, it's getting there. I think I got a bit. I rushed the that way a little bit. There you go. I may have rushed the dry brushing a little bit.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But it's kind of.
Nice hot mustard.
Yeah. You can always put more washes, more dry brushes. You know, if you want to deepen the colour, maybe go with strong tone next time instead.
Yeah. And I'll just pop the Raloff on. So just start with some of the chainmail, just little bits, just to make him brighten him up a little bit. Yeah. Quite happy how it's turning out. I need to work a bit more on the jerkin.
You didn't clean the brush, did you?
Oh, sorry, no.
You did not clean your brush, yeah.
Did not clean my brush.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all stuck together.
I thought I did. I obviously didn't do it enough.
Yeah. Cool. So.
Well, thick indeed. Thank you very much for watching our stream, guys.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. It was also really fun to actually finally get around and paint some of it. An Elder Scrolls Mini. So they're really fun. I mean, a lot of detail. I think they take the paint quite well. Because sometimes you find some models the paint doesn't seem to want to stick or do anything with, but yeah, they've ended up really nice.
Yeah.
So we'll brighten them up next time, but it's looking pretty good, I think.
Yeah. Strong tone.
Strong tone. Quick wash. He's a dirty, dirty boy. This is actually where these palettes don't work so well. Washes, because you haven't got a well like you've got there.
I think these ones have held the moisture. They kept them wet for quite a while.
Yeah, they do alright.
Star Trek Adventure Definite. Yeah, Lloyd is doing Star Trek on Wednesday, and I'm sure you'll have a blast watching that. It's always fun watching Lloyd GM, so yeah, please tune in on Wednesday for more Modiphius fun, and we'll have some more Fallout next Friday. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you'll have a good weekend. Continue to like, share, subscribe. That's really cool that you guys spend the time watching this.
Yeah, promote.
Yeah. Awkward goodbyes.
Awkward goodbyes.
Awkward goodbyes.
Well, thank you very much for that. Once again, if you paint any minis, send them along to our Modiphius page, and we'd love to showcase them, especially if they're products from our lines. That's always even better. But yeah, you can buy the Dragonborn Triumphant Mini in our store now.
Yep.
All the Fallout stuff you can get in our store as well, and hopefully there'll be more stuff available very soon.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Brilliant. Cheers. Bye.